My mom was an amazing woman. She did everything to try to keep us all together as a family. I remember Mother's Day 2 weeks before she was killed, and I couldn't afford the gas to come see her, and she gave me $20 just so that I would have gas, just so that she could have all of her kids there for Mother's Day. I miss the family. We don't get together like that anymore since she's gone. We don't have birthday parties with our kids. I mean, my kids haven't had a birthday party with their cousins since 2007 when she died. My mother was always there and always listening, and she may offer her opinions, but she always was there for us, that we could have somebody, and I don't feel that we have that anymore, and that is an injustice to all of us, that we had her taken from us way before she should have been gone. And it's just not fair.
From January 1975 through May 31st, 2009, there have been a total of 213,814 crossing accidents, which were reported by the railroads to the National Response Center. Closer examination reveals that over 20,000 people were killed in these accidents, and another 79,469 people were injured. Shocking statistics were recently reported by the Federal Railroad Administration regarding railroad-related accidents and injuries. It is estimated that cars and trains collide every 12 minutes, with a total of 9,570 train incidents and accidents in the year 2009. Here are some disturbing statistics. Of the 9,570 train wrecks, 649 people were killed and 6,686 people were injured. The average train weighs 12 million pounds, so the weight ratio of a train to a car is about 4,000 to 1. This compares to the weight ratio of a car to an aluminum can. A train traveling at 50 miles per hour, pulling 100 cars, takes 1 mile to stop. So in a contest between a car and a train, the train obviously and always wins. The motorist in a train motor vehicle collision is 40 times more likely to die than in a collision between two motor vehicles. This fact is a real shocker. As of December 2009, the United States had 136,041 public ag-grade railroad crossings. Of these crossings, approximately 42,301 have gates, 22,039 have flashing lights, and 1,196 have highway traffic signals, wigwags, and bells. So do the math. The remaining railroad crossings, approximately 72,000 in America today, over 50% have nothing. No warning lights, no gates, and nothing to protect drivers. Plus, to make matters even worse, not only are these 72,000 crossings unprotected, many of them are overgrown with weeds, trees, and other types of vegetation, and or have broken signals or gates that the railroad has failed to repair that make these crossings so very dangerous.
Today, the Insider Exclusive goes behind the headlines in Death on the Tracks, Cynthia Madden's story, to show how Richard Steagall, partner at Nicoara and Steagall, is fighting for justice for Cynthia Madden's family. Cynthia Madden, 50 years old, died May 28, 2007, when a train struck her vehicle that had stalled on the railroad tracks at the Cleveland Road intersection just east of Illinois 84. A federal lawsuit was originally filed in U.S. District Court, Rock Island, by the family's lawyer Richard Steagall on behalf of the family and Tanya Nunez, who is the administrator of her mother's estate. The suit seeks $2 million in damages. Currently, the case has been appealed to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Seventh Circuit. It was argued on April 12, 2013, and awaiting a ruling by the court. Today, for the first time on national TV, Richard Steagall will discuss some of the unique aspects of this case, the importance of all Americans having the right to a jury trial as guaranteed by the 7th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, and all the important evidence that the original judge excluded and overlooked. Richard has earned the highest respect from citizens and lawyers alike as one of the best trial lawyers in Peoria, in Illinois, and across the nation. Richard is driven to get justice for his clients and to make sure that all Americans have the right to a fair trial, impartial prosecutors, and fair judges with no agendas. Because injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere, and justice and power must be brought together so that whatever is just may be powerful, and whatever is powerful may be just. This is the Insider Exclusive, live from Peoria, Illinois.
It is my great pleasure to introduce Rick Steagall to the show. Welcome to the show, Rick.
Thank you, Steve.
Tell our audience a little bit about your law firm. What kind of law do you practice?
I represent plaintiffs in federal civil rights, employment discrimination, railroad cases, and other complex matters of litigation. It's all trial-based.
And when you say you represent plaintiffs, we're talking about the individual, small people.
Yes.
Correct? Against usually large corporations, etc.
Right, or government.
Today we are talking about a case where you represented an individual, Cynthia Madden, in a railroad crossing case. Who was Cynthia Madden?
Cynthia Madden had a difficult life. Her marriage, the husband was abusive, so abusive that some of the children were taken away. She was a strong role model for her family. She had a good job at the United States Army's arsenal in Rock Island, Illinois. Mm-hmm. So she was the glue that held those kids together.
Mm-hmm. Tell our audience about her case.
Sherry went on the railroad tracks. Her car stalled. The gates and lights started flashing. She ran away from the train, unfortunately, and the train knocked the car into her, killing her.
Right.
And the question is, in the case, is whether the Burlington BNSF Railway provided her with the required 20-second warning at the crossing.
Right. Let's talk about these requirements. Tell our audience, what are the requirements to provide warning, time-wise?
Well, if you have a controlled crossing with flashing lights and gates, mm-hmm. the Federal Railroad Administration requires that 20 seconds warning be given.
Right.
That's 20 seconds warning before the train enters the crossing.
Right.
They also require 2 long blasts of the horn and 1 short.
Yeah.
In this case, Mrs. Madden's adult children went out to put a cross and flowers next to where she was killed, and they said, why don't we time this train? And they pulled out their cell phones and they measured it at a certain point, and they found that it gave 9 to 10 seconds warning.
Right. Now, you provided this testimony in your original filing in the case, correct?
Yes.
And you also supplemented it with experts' testimony as to how the railroad the train operator did not follow procedure, correct?
Yes, that the signals we've all heard of the airplane black box that tells you went on. Well, railroads have it too.
Yes.
There's 2 of them, but there are 3 of them really, there's a signals black box that tells you what happens with the signals and the date is there. Mm-hmm. And then there's a locomotive black box, and then the dispatcher who controls all movement has his records.
Now, those records were given to the court, correct?
Yes, they were in text files and could be altered, and our 2 experts who were retired Federal Railroad Administration officials told how they could do it.
Right. And now you presented this evidence to the initial trial judge.
Yes.
What did he do with the evidence?
Well, I should say that the black box data showed that the signals data made no sense.
Okay.
It showed that the signals operated for 30 seconds, 2 minutes before a train entered a crossing, on the same clock as the signals black box, 11 minutes before the train entered the crossing, and on the locomotive black box, 14 minutes.
So they contradicted each other.
Yeah, the signals do you no good if the train's not entering.
Yeah. This evidence is presented to the trial judge.
Yes.
What does the trial judge say regarding the evidence? First, about the timing that the children did. What did she say about them?
They're grieving and they're not qualified.
Okay, and then what does he say about your expert's testimony and the discrepancies in all of these?
He did his own analysis and said, well, 30 seconds warning was provided, and he did not understand how the system worked.
So he dismissed the case?
Yes.
Now, you appealed this case to the 7th Circuit, is that it?
U.S. Court of Appeals, yes.
Yes, and currently it is on appeal, correct?
Right.
It was argued when, in March?
April 12th.
April. Okay, and you're waiting some sort of decision?
Yes.
Okay. Do you find it a little unbelievable that the trial judge would have dismissed evidence which clearly showed that there are so many discrepancies that this should go to a jury to determine what really happened?
Yes, and it's the human factor. Very good judge, but his wife was sick and his clerk worked on it and he missed it.
Today we have with us Cynthia's 2 daughters, Tanya Nunez and Carrie Dillard. So we're going to bring them on right now. It is my great pleasure to introduce Tanya Nunez and Carrie Dillard to the show. Welcome to the show, guys. Take us back to that day that you found out what happened to your mom. What were your thoughts initially?
Actually, when it happened, it was Memorial Day, 2007, and I was actually in Boulder, Colorado, when I got the phone call from my brother that my mom had been rushed to the hospital and was involved in an accident. And we were, at that time, just waiting. We hadn't been confirmed whether she was hurt severely or, I mean, I did, at that time, did not know what her condition was.
How soon were you able to get back to here?
Within about, I drove back immediately that night. We drove back here, and I think I got into town early in the morning. It's a good 18-hour drive, and got here early in the morning on the next day, on Tuesday.
Carrie, where were you when you first heard the news?
I was at home already. My mom had taken me home. That was on her ride back home from dropping me off in Cedar Rapids when she got hit by the train from camping. Our Memorial Day weekend annual trip, we all get together, and she actually called my friend who lived downstairs from me because I didn't have my phone on that day, and she called me from Colorado to tell me. My first reaction was, what hospital, where's she at? And then she was like, no, she's gone.
Yeah. Your mom was a careful driver, right?
Oh, yes.
Never had accidents before?
No.
Okay. Her car, as you have now learned, stalled on the tracks.
Correct.
I understand it was within days or the next day you went out to the scene of the accident, is that correct?
The next day.
Yeah. And what made you decide to time?
Curiosity.
Pardon me?
Curiosity.
Curiosity.
Just being there and feeling how fast that train was going.
So you saw a train
intersection.
coming around the bend.
It came through.
And you just whipped out your watch and you timed it.
Yeah, we decided to wait for the next one to come through, and
Yeah. Did you know that there were federal regulations regarding how long a person has to be warned?
No.
No. When did you bring your case to Rick Steagall? How soon after that?
we had talked to numerous friends and people during that week when we were preparing for the funeral, and we had discussed with them, the case and just at that time what we knew about the pieces that we were putting together. About there was no speed signs, there was a lot of things that
There's a lot of things that are obvious to people.
to a person, right? And they're like, you might have a case here, you guys should maybe check into a lawyer and look into this. And so that was when we inquired online about finding a lawyer that specifically had dealt with train cases previously, and that was when we were contacted by Rick and Harmon.
When the case first went to trial, the judge, after listening to the evidence, dismissed the case, right?
Yes.
What were your What was your thoughts then?
Frustrated. I didn't understand how they couldn't see what we saw with
Yeah.
the evidence, and what, to me, it was just like it was just thrown under the rug, and they just didn't even want to deal with it.
Yeah.
They just, you know, it was just a petty case to them, and they didn't
Yeah.
take the time to
Right.
look at what our case was.
Now it's on appeal, and hopefully it will be successful. At least he'll have a chance to get before a jury. What do you have to say to the railroad and their lawyers? We're on national TV. What would you like them to know about your mom, and about what do you think about what justice should be done here?
I feel that they were negligent. I mean, if my mother would have had 5 more seconds to get, I mean, she got out of the car, attempted to get out of the way of the car, and almost cleared it. She was hit by the car on the back trunk of the driver's
Right
side
by
of
the
the
gas
car.
tank.
Yeah.
If she'd had 5 more seconds, 2 more steps,
Yeah.
she would have cleared the car.
Yeah.
And for them to not see that the speed, the warning that she was not given, that wasn't ample enough time for her to
Yeah.
avoid the accident, that, I mean, they should see that she, 5 more seconds would have saved her life.
Yeah. Carrie, how has the passing of your mother changed your life?
Dramatically, it's changed our whole family. Our whole family. You know, like I said, Memorial Day weekend, that was our annual camping trip. Our whole family got together. And I don't think we've done it in 2 or 3 years.
All you're looking for is the opportunity to have this case brought to a jury so they can hear the facts, correct?
Yes.
And they can determine who's at fault and what should be done about it, right?
Correct.
What is your opinion of Rick Steagall's law firm?
They've been very helpful with the whole thing, and putting the piece together, and acquiring the technical information and stuff with the train boxes, and
Right.
you know,
It's pretty
stuff
complicated.
complicated stuff that,
Yeah.
you know, we're just looking at it from, I know the trains were going too fast, and I know that she was, you know, killed, but I don't know any of the insides of, you know, what exactly they did
The
wrong.
rules and regulations,
You
basically.
know, what do you have to say to folks out there that, you know, in regard to watching out around railroad safety crossings? What do you have to say to them? Advice?
Heed the warnings. I mean, my mother, there were so many trains that passed by. She had 2 pass by her before she attempted to cross the tracks, and didn't realize or think that there was going to be another one immediately following. And to heed that warning, and if your car stalls, get out right then. Don't
Yeah.
sit there and try to keep
Start
starting it, or don't, you know, because you don't know if you're going to have 5 seconds or 10 seconds
Yeah.
to get out of that car, and you just don't know.
Okay, well, I want to thank both of you for taking your time to come here today, and we certainly wish you a lot of success on your appeal.
Thank you.
Rick, what advice do you give the general public when they happen to be a victim of a railroad accident?
Get to a lawyer quickly who
And-
knows what he's doing.
And why is that?
Because the evidence changes.
Are you saying the railroads manipulate the evidence?
Very well can.
Destroy evidence?
Well, they did in our case. It's fairly obvious. And if you get the lawyer who knows what he's doing, he gets out and gets those black box records right away.
Okay.
And he finds you get an inspection right away, so he'll be able to look, just like an airline crash, he'll be able to look at these 3 different black boxes and find out what occurred from the data, which is much more reliable than any eyewitness.
Right. There are, I've read, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 170,000 plus railroad crossings in America today. Approximately half of them, 50%, do not have any kind of protection at all. They don't have lights, they don't have crossing arms, they don't have anything. What responsibilities do the railroads have to the general public to protect them at these crossings?
At the ones that don't have any, they call them active warning systems with the lights and gates, sound 2 long blasts of the horn and 1 short.
That's it.
That's it. And It's not adequate, but we've never made them put gates and lights on everyone. Now, it's very different with the gates and lights.
Mm-hmm. Any other advice you want to give to our audience regarding if they've been involved with a railroad accident?
Whatever you do, you have to get a lawyer. The railroads have been handling claims. They're the first major corporations that had existed in the United States. Mm-hmm. They know what they're doing, and they will know a lot more than you. Get a lawyer quick so they can go in, and there may be some key eyewitnesses that you can get that could be consistent with the data, that if you wait a year or two, the statute of limitations in Illinois, for example, is 2 years. If you wait, you're never going to find those people.
Right. Well, I want to thank you very much for sharing this story on our show. It's an important issue and one that everybody should be aware of. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks for joining us. You can get more information about our guest and the issues at insiderexclusive.com.